As a survivor of gun violence, I can't help but to think about how many people have been lost because of this perceived right or this outdated document. I feel like this debate around the Second Amendment is oversimplifying a really serious and complex issue. And unfortunately, there's too many privileged individuals having these debates, making these decisions who aren't feeling the pain of what gun violence in our country has done to us. Right now, America criminalizes black men. There's no doubt about it. I've been through it. I've never been caught for some type of violence offense, but I've had guns drawn on me by law enforcement 5 times, right? When I was shot, when I arrived at the hospital, I wasn't met with a nurse or a doctor or a surgeon. I was met with 3 investigators. And they asked me, where's my gun? And in my situation, they were more focused on solving the crime than saving my life. And I think
black people warned America for so long and about this gun violence that's going on. Black people have been talking about it for decades. Now, today I need to talk about that. I need to talk about something that black people have been screaming. Not only gun violence, there's a lot of things, but America ignored. Police brutality, America ignored. For years, black communities have been raising the alarm. For years, black people said that guns are glorified in America. The way police use force without accountability, the way violence is treated as culture, it was going to come back and bite the country. But what did America say? What did America say? They said black people are the problem. They blamed black people. They planted violence within black people. They said black people are dangerous, criminals, But look at what's happening right now. Look at the news. The very violence they ignored, the very system they defended is now hunting them. And the tragic death of Charlie Kirk, may God rest his soul, is one of those shocking wake-up calls to white America. Now, let me say this, whether you liked Kirk or hated his politics, death is still death, okay? And we send condolences to his family, to his loved ones, and to the ones who are mourning. But at the same time, we cannot ignore the larger truth that this moment represents. We cannot ignore what this moment represents, the symbolic that this moment brings. Because the suspect of his killings, I don't think even if he's black. He's not even black, okay? And that alone shatters a myth that America has been selling for centuries, that black people are the problem, that violence in America is a black issue. Before I go down with that video, I want you to watch these clips first, and then I'm coming back with more commentary.
And to my people, to my black people, this is not our fight. Stay out of it. It's not our fight. They said violence had no place in politics. They won't saying that during the civil rights, back when they was assassinating us then. It didn't apply then. Let it fly now. It's not our fight. Let the white people handle it.
Nobody is exempt from this. If you live in Baltimore City, it could be your child next. That's right. That's how real this thing is. Yep, right. So we're asking you to bring your young men and your young women to us. Playtime is over.
Fathers in prison. Yep. Some of the fathers are in the street leading this madness. Right. And that children gotta see them. I gotta have kids with me and go around the corner so they won't see their father on the block slinging.
Don't be part of the problem by being silent. Being silent and on the sideline right now is part of the problem.
All us gotta hold each other accountable.
That's right.
All these mothers know that kids carry guns. All the grandfathers, mothers, uncles, cousins know they carry guns. I hold all y'all accountable.
Black lives only matter when somebody else is killing us.
That's right.
We've got Congressman James Lankford, surprisingly Republican, of Oklahoma, and he thinks that perhaps guns shouldn't be blamed, shocking, but that other kinds of people should be blamed. Watch.
Is regarding the guns, and is Washington at all aware of the psychotropic drugs that these children are taking? Because I guarantee it 100%. That's our big problem.
Where are we on all these psychiatric drugs? And we've over-medicated kids. Quite frankly, some of the over-medication of those kids are because welfare moms want to get additional benefits, and if they can put them on SSI through maintenance drugs, they can also put them on Social Security disability and they get a separate check. That is wrong on every single level. It not only is fraudulent to the government, but it tells a kid with great potential, don't try, you're disabled.
So that's actually hitting a lot of birds with one stone. So what's he doing there? First of all, he's saying, oh, no, guns aren't the problem. Ignore guns, of course. No, the real problem is Social Security. And because by the way, they have one Boston Globe article about this, about how you got to go on medication in order to, get this disability kind of benefit, right? But what they leave out is that in the Boston Globe article, the parents say, it turns out my kids needed the medication and it really helped. Yeah, the Republicans conveniently leave that part out. Tom and Christopher had a good article about this on Mediaite. And then the other thing that they want to do, by the way, is cut the Social Security budget by $1.4 billion. That's another bird you knock out with that same stone. Oh, there's shootings? Let's cut Social Security. Now, because you get disability benefits from Social Security as well. They're like, yes, a way to do our agenda. Take from the poor, take from the middle class, take from people who actually need it, so that you don't take from the gun manufacturers who fund us. But if you missed it, the fourth bird he hit with that stone was racial. You know, these people who are on welfare, the ones doing all the shootings. Really? Do you have any information whether any of the people that did the shootings were actually on welfare? That's not what he's talking about. This is obviously racial. Like, oh, you know those gangbangers. And some of them don't even bother making it a code word. They say gangbangers, right? Gee, I wonder who they're talking about. You know, the ones on welfare, right? So, well, to be fair, though, if they are talking about black people, let's take a look quickly at some of the recent shooters and see maybe they got it right. Oh, right, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold from Columbine were super white. How about Jared Loughner, the person who shot Gabby Giffords? Oh, right, also white. How about James Holmes, the Aurora Theater shooter? Oh, right, also white. How about Wade Michael Page? Not only white, but a Nazi. That's the Sikh temple shooting. And then, of course, the Newtown school shooting, also white. To my knowledge, none of them were on welfare. But that's not what he was talking about. And I have now seen this many times where people say, yes, there's some massacres, but most of the shooting is coming from gangbangers. The people on welfare. Well, as you can see from this picture.
The difference between me and Charlie Kirk is that I believe that he should still be alive and that he should not have been murdered by gun violence. But if I had been killed going to my job as a teacher, he would claim that that is just a almost necessary casualty of the Second Amendment. And the difference between being in education or being a student in this country and being a Republican politician is that that Republican will become a martyr, and a student or teacher or school employee, you will forget their names by the next news cycle. I truly send my sincerest condolences to Erica Kirk and her children. Your father, your husband should still be here. No child deserves to grow up without a parent. And my prayer is that this moment radicalizes you and that you do something so that no more children, no more teachers, no more parents have to experience life without that person. I pray that this moment radicalizes you. And genuinely, I am so sorry for your loss. I am so sorry for what you've lost.
That's what hurt me. That a black man has no chance to live because of the cold, heartless brutality that we inflict upon one another. Brothers and sisters, if we don't stop killing one another, God is going to give you your own blood to drink. Right. Because he has a killer. Go ahead. Right. That has been killing since he's been on the earth. The book of Revelation calls him the blood shedder. Right. He shed the blood of all life. He kills animals without reason and kills human beings the same way. Dear brothers, you're being set up now for the slaughter. You are playing into the hands of a master plan, and you do not know that you are being set up for the slaughter. But with a gun in his hand, He's invincible. And this sense of invincibility gives the brother a delusion of power until the tanks roll in, until the helicopter gunships fly over, until white folks show you what real weaponry is. Then all of a sudden your sense of invincibility evaporated like the morning dew. So when an unfair judgment comes down and you go to burning and you take your little pop guns with your false sense of invincibility and you roll out, then white folks gonna roll in. And since you love blood, they're gonna make you shed your own blood, and you will drink your own blood. And the Bible says you will be drunk with your own blood as though you were drinking sweet wine. These aren't the days of wine and roses. This is the day of the end of filth and indecency and the destruction of us as a people. I want to say this, even if you are stung by what I said, or even angry, go home and in the quiet of your room, think about it. Because each one of us can do better.
Welcome back. Let me rewind back. America was built on violence. That is reality. From the genocide of native people to the chains of slavery, violence has always been the backbone of that so-called American dream. Guns weren't just tools. Guns were symbols of power. For white settler, a gun meant ownership. It means dominance. It meant that I control this land. You know, I control this person. I control these resources. That's what gun symbolized. And when slavery ended, do you know what America did? They didn't put that gun down. Instead, they turned them into black communities through lynchings, police patrols, and racial terror. So guns and violence were never about protecting society, but they were about maintaining control. Right now, in 20th century or 21st century, when black communities started standing up during the civil rights movement, America panicked. So when the Black Panthers legally carried firearms to protect themselves from police brutality, suddenly laws were passed to restrict guns. Okay? That's history. Not because America feared guns, but because they feared black people with guns. Now, here's the contradiction. White America glorified gun as ownership when it was them doing the shooting. They call it freedom. But when black people carried arms to defend themselves or to defend their communities, they call it a threat, okay? And yet, even with all this history, black communities were not the ones stockpiling assault weapons. They were not the ones who were leading mass shootings in schools. But when black people carried arms to defend, like it was to defend themselves or their communities. Study after study shows that the majority of mass shooters in America are not black. But somehow, when politicians and media talk about violence, they point their fingers to black community. It is written down. It is statistics. I'm not talking out of somewhere. It's history. So this scapegoating served a purpose. It allowed white America to ignore the monster growing in their own backyard. It didn't want to admit that the real danger was the culture of gun obsession, toxic masculinity, and untreated mental illness, all of which which white America ignored because it didn't fit the narrative. Now, when black people said we need guns reform, we need police accountability, we need to address violence at the root, America dismissed us. America dismissed black people. America dismissed black America. Instead, they doubled down saying black people are violent. Black neighborhoods are dangerous. Black culture is the problem. And now, family, the irony itself, it's showing itself because the same America that ignored the warnings is now being hunted by the very violence it refused to confront. And that's why America's empire is falling, because they lived ignoring, they built on top of lies and everything. My kings and queens, this is where I wanna talk about something, because the truth is black people didn't just start warning America yesterday. Black people have been warning America for decades, from the streets, from the pulpits, from the classrooms, and from the protest lines. But America plugged its ears and turned their back. So let me talk about civil rights movement. Martin Luther King wasn't just preaching about dreams. He was warning America that violence and injustice will destroy its moral foundation. And he said a riot is the language of the unheard. But instead of listening to the pains behind those words, America painted King as a awful, as a troublemaker, and the FBI targeted him as if he was a criminal. Then came Malcolm X back then, okay? Malcolm X said, if America doesn't address the violence against black people, that violence, it will spread. What did America did? They dismissed him as radical. Now in 1990s and 2000s, black activists and scholars were warning about mass incarceration, police brutality, gun culture. They say that if you militarize police and flood neighborhood with weapons, you are building a system of violence that won't stay contained again. They were ignored. From the ignorance, black people said a number of things. They said police are just doing their jobs. They said if black people just comply, they are safe. They said it's not guns, it's black culture. That's the problem. But think about this. When black people marched with Black Lives Matter, they were not just talking about racism. They were talking about violence. They were talking about state violence. They were talking about police violence, gun violence. They were saying the system of brutality will spread like a disease. But instead of listening, white America demonized the movement. Instead of listening, they called activists thugs. Instead of listening, they called protesters riots. They claimed that they were exaggerating. Politicians and media built careers of dismissing black pain, telling the country it is not the system, it is the black community. Sorry to say, even Kirk was one of them, okay? Meanwhile, black intellectuals, black professors, artists kept warning. They kept warning. Hip-hop has been screaming about gun violence for decades in the music. Now the irony is too loud to ignore, because all of those years, America was pointing fingers at black communities. The gun violence problem was outside of them. Mass shooting in schools, suburban violence, extremist militias, and now high-profile figures like Charles Kirk falling a victim of that gun violence. That is not black America problem haunting the nation. That is America's problem haunting itself. That is true. Maybe things will be different today if they could just listen to what black people were saying. When America was built, it was built on top of lies, a lot of lies. And white America has always built narrative to protect its image even when the reality says otherwise, okay? For centuries, they have used the tactics of projection, blame someone else for the very thing they are guilty of. And that's exactly what happened with violence. And let me break down a little bit. When black people said they are being brutalized by the police, America said, you are the one who is violent. When black communities said, we need to address gun reform, America said, you are the criminals with guns, okay? When activists called out mass shootings, America said that black problem is in inner cities. I don't know if you're seeing that pattern. Denial wasn't passive, it was active. It was about protecting the illusion of white innocence. So America built this idea that gun violence was a black issue because it allowed them to avoid looking into the mirror. It allowed them to say are good citizens and they are the violent ones. It justified police brutality. It justified discriminatory laws and the entire system. But let me say this, denial always has an expiration date, and we are living in that expiration moment right now. Look at the data. The vast majority of mass shooters in America are white men. Yet when a mass shooting happens, the media never says, this is a white culture problem. Instead, they label it as mental health. Individuals rage or just a tragedy, okay? But when a black person is involved in violence, suddenly it becomes a culture flaw. It becomes a community issue, a reason for more policing. That's not just hypocrisy. That's what is a careful crafted system of denial. And the truth is, this denial didn't just fail black people. It is now failing white Americans too, because by refusing to address the roots of the problem, they have allowed the disease of gun violence to spread everywhere. In schools, in churches, in shopping malls, in political rallies, no place is safe anymore. And this is what denial produces. A society where violence becomes normalized until it explodes in places they never expected. And with the killings of Charles Kirk, someone who built his career attacking movements like Black Lives Matter and defending America gun culture, the denial is cracking because suddenly the very system he defended has turned on him. I'll say this, denial can only last so long before reality forces itself through the cracks. And that's exactly what is happening in America today. Coming to see what made me make this video is the issue of Charles Kirk. Charles Kirk was not just a commentator, he was one of the loudest voices defending gun culture of America. He was one of the loudest voice defending the police without accountability and blaming black community for violence. He was someone who built a following by dismissing the cries of black activists and pushing back against every demand for reform. And yet, the way he left this world was not at the hands of the black person. The way he left these hands was not in so-called dangerous black neighborhood. It was in Ulta. The white community numbers there, okay? The way he left this world, it is in the same America he claimed was only under threat from black people. The suspect, I don't know, is not even black. The violence doesn't fit his narrative, okay? And that is what makes this movement so powerful, because for decades, white America said, if you stay away from black people, you are safe. If you support the police, you are protected. If you defend gun rights, you will be secured. But this death shatters those myths. It shows that gun violence is not a black issue. It's an American issue. It proves that the system of violence doesn't discriminate when it spreads. I want to be clear here. We are not here to celebrate anyone's death. Life is sacred, and his family deserves space to grieve. But we cannot ignore the lessons that history is screaming at us right now. Charles Kirk's death represents the collapse of the narrative. It shows that black violence myth has no foundation, okay? The price of denial. By ignoring the warnings of black people, America allowed the violence to grow unchecked. And now it is too big to contain. And it's touching every corner of society, okay? And for the first time right now, many people are being forced to ask hard questions. If Charles Kirk could die this way, then maybe the problem is not black people. Maybe the problem is the very system he spent his life protecting. That's what I have to say about this video. Black people warned for decades about this, the violence, things they are going through, but they were painted as the black neighborhood was painted as quack and everything. See what's happening. I'm not talking about the death of Charlie Kirk only. I'm talking about each and every person who died through the violence, gun violence and everything. It could be, they could have maintained this if they just agree it's not black people problem, but America's problem. What do you say in the comment section? Until next episode, peace out.